Show and Tell Boston After Dark. I'm here with our artist philosophy panel. Can I get you guys to go around and tell me who you are, what you do, and give me like 1 to 3 sentences about like how you've come into art, your art journey.
Hi, my name is Taj, and I'm an artist. I like to draw. So I created my own style. It's called Odd Ego, and it's just like an expression of myself. And it's also like for meditation.
My name is Dante, aka Artist My Voice. I've been drawing all my life, and I just love to tell stories, so I'm currently working on comic stuff. That's about it.
What's up, y'all? My name is Elijah, aka Creative Strength. I got into art through supporting the homies, which I think is the best thing to do. Started with music, and now getting into podcasting and managing music myself.
Oh, nice. Wait, you did videography? You didn't say
and videography. I'm a dabbler.
Dabbler.
Yeah.
Jack of all trades. I hate those.
Renaissance man. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. My name is Mikey, also known as Alavixi. I've been doing design, graphic design for about 15 years. I've do illustration, aerosol, painting, motion graphics, animation. I'm currently lead designer at Artists for Humanity, and I love to see people win.
Let's go.
Nice. I like all these answers. Very nice. My name is Lucci. I'm a poet first and foremost, actor and comedian second. I also do spiritual readings of various sorts, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
What it do? It's your boy Most Generous. I'm an artist, actor, recording artist, musician, and yeah, like I mainly use music as a means to express, my deepest emotions and my thoughts, and yeah, it's also therapeutic. Yeah.
What up, y'all? This is Extra God on the mic. I'm a musician. I also produce beats, and I'm also an engineer. I do a lot of things. I'm a jack of all trades. One of the people's tatas hate so much. But I also do graphic design, motion graphics, editing. I do a lot of graphic work as well. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, a jack of all trades. Yeah.
Well, one thing I was saying is like why I kind of hate jack of all trades. Like, mind you, I went to school for visual art. I was a dance instructor one time. I do like kind of like make beats sometimes eventually, and then like I kind of do like I dabble in a lot of art. But the reason why I hate jack of all trades is because I was so spread thin that I feel like a lot of people who do this is like spread thin. So what did you really kind of like dial into? And I did videography, and I was like, I did a lot of like around the city, but I just think that a lot of jack of all trades, because they focus on so much, they don't actually get as good as they could as an artist.
I'm going to second that. That's 100% true. But there is an atmosphere that caters towards that. I mean, I think we can still win being those people. I mean, besides being a jack of all trades, you still have to learn how to communicate. You got to learn how to do all these fundamental things. So despite that, you're doing like several talents, you still do several things outside of being talented. So why not be multifaceted in the talents? There are people out there who are in the MBTA that are also security guards. They have like 10 jobs. So being an artist is no different. We just decide I don't want to work at a sneaker store and security guard and MBTA. I'd rather just be music producer, graphic designer, XYZ, and take on all those hats than take all the other hats that somebody in the street would take if they weren't talented. So that's kind of how I feel. Mm-hmm. As far as like dialing in, I don't have a particular area where I dial in. I'm more of a people person. If I have to say I dial in anything, there's people that I connect with in every one of those fields. And if there's an area that I dial in, it's just the communications and assistance. And again, like watching people win and witnessing people do great things. Because when I'm assisting people do great things, in turn, I'm going to do great things. So being a jack of all trades just means that if I could help somebody win in motion graphics and in music and in this, that, and the third, if everybody wins, I diversify myself, I'm gonna win in every sector. So then you get that kind of respect of like, yo, that man does this. It is challenging. You do burn out. At one point, I burnt out so bad that I became a mechanic.
God damn. So put the art shit to the side.
You got so. You know, like I bought my first car, and then I fixed my first car after somebody told me, "Oh, this passed inspection." And then I'm driving down American Legion Highway. I hit the brakes went out. My daughter's in the back of the car. I said I thought this car passed inspection, so I'm handbraking the whole way home. Almost had a huge accident. After that, I said I don't trust nobody. So if I gotta be the jack of all trades to make sure nobody kill me, shit, I'm gonna do that, you know. And then after that, I got a motorcycle, started moving ahead and being a mechanic. Went to BFit. Then I started working on diesel trucks, removing engines, and then the calling came back. It said, "Yo, you need to come back into the art field." And I said, "Damn."
Okay.
Damn.
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah. So,
But
that's my bit. That's
I
my
hear you,
bit.
Elijah. As a serial dabbler, how do you feel about jack of all trades, even though you're kind of one of them?
Well, first of all, I want to echo what you said. I love to see people win. And I feel like that's how I ended up kind of being a dabbler. Is like I always just trying to support the creative homies. And then just through supporting others, like I want to get a little bit involved and learn about what they were doing. And then as I started learning about what they were getting into, I was like, oh, this is enjoyable. Like I want to do this myself.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up getting into music through videography. But I think creativity and art in general is so baked into everything that we do because each and every day we're creating our lives. We wake up, we start telling ourselves a story about like, this is the way my life is going to be. And I'm going to start learning things. And even like working as a mechanic, like you're working with pieces, you're going through process and you're creating something that works out of something that didn't work. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's just such a inherent part of life. And if you have that in your spirit, you're going to find ways to express that in any way that you can. You know what I mean? So I think especially with the barrier for entry being so low for creativity these days, like that if you have a creative spirit, you can get your hands on anything. So you're gonna take that and run with it. That's why I think we see more dabblers today, more jack of all trades than any other time in history.
That is probably true. Now, when I talk to like Taj and Dante, when you see like jack of all trades, because you guys kind of specialize in you're like one field of like illustration and art and storytelling. You haven't had that person who was like, yeah, I draw, I do this, I do that. You're like, oh yeah, let me see your drawings, and like that shit's just trash. And it's mostly because that person probably didn't give that field of art its due diligence because they were concentrating on doing so many different things.
So, I see it a lot.
So you do see it a lot
at the store that I work at. I won't say it, on here, but
keep it on the low.
Yeah, I get my customers and they be showing off things. I love to interact. So I'm always willing to see what somebody's willing to show. And like you said, they'll be launching into like, oh, I do this, I do that. I'm also technically a jack of all trades kind of thing.
Oh my God.
But it was in my, like within the past 4 years, I started having to like hone in because of like my goals, my long-term goals. And I was just too scattered. So when I see other people, I'm like, you decided to go far and spread wide a little too early. You didn't dedicate enough into one. You got to give, one some life, give it a little push, and then move on to the next if you want to like get something meaningful out of each one. However, with that being said, I didn't know what they wanted from each one. How far do they want to go for it? Like me right now, I've been trying to teach myself guitar on and off for years, but I'm comfortable with like accepting that it's not my thing right now because I have to focus on my comic. But I'm working on my scheduling so that I can see if I can fit that back in for like maybe 2 or 3 sessions a week. I can just go at it and start picking it up again. So I think one, there's a way you have to navigate it if you want to be successful at a jack of all trades type of person like these two we're talking about. But you see it a lot. Where it's just kind of like, oh man, that would look cool if you gave it like maybe a year's worth of like just dedication to just this one, hone in on it, learn, for drawing specifically, learn basic anatomy. Like we see it a lot with just like a lot of younger artists. They love anime, they love all this stuff, but they don't take the time to learn the anatomy they just see the animated style that they want to emulate.
Yeah.
And it's like, but you don't understand the process that got that artist to that level. And that artist went back and said, okay, I can shave away at being this realistic because I like to draw things this way. Or the character that they worked on, if anybody's familiar with One Piece, they got so many different types of characters.
I've seen that, yeah.
And to me, when I look at that as like somebody who's been drawing my entire life, I'm like, oh, this is just somebody who's like, yo, I just want to make something that looks cool and interesting. There's no need. Like, I'm not somebody who loves to do photorealistic drawings.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it stifles my creativity.
Yeah, I think they're boring too.
Yeah, so I can.
No offense.
I can see where some of these younger artists really need to like take the time to hone in on specific skills before they start trying to acquire new ones, because it will take their creativity in too many different directions at once. I've gone through it myself. Do you have response? Okay,
yeah.
I'll take it away.
What was the question again?
Like you being focused on your one craft. Like, how do you feel about jack of all trades or people who are scattered?
I feel like everything is thoughts, and it's actually what you do after the thought that like differentiates if you're going to be like a jack of all trades or not. So I feel like, and it's also like after the thought comes, thoughts come and go. So like I like how you said you have to feed that in. So there's like, once you learn about like how you consume, then you start to learn how to like condition your own self into your own, channeling it into your own creativity by like I don't know, looking at other people's artwork or listening to other people's music or surrounding yourself in nature, that like hearing the sounds or being somewhere and just listening, using that aspect or that instrument that you use and just toning into it. I grew up drawing for a pretty long sorry.
How long? She's an extrovert.
Yeah, no. But yeah, so for me, it just stemmed from loving the process of learning, because once that feels like a reward, and you just want to push that, and everyone has their own limit, but we try to push past that all the time. So I feel like that's where that comes from.
No, I hear that. And a lot of times I do see, like, I would say people who have taken on a bunch of titles, I feel like they're more wanting the title than they actually care about the craft.
That's true. I see that too.
Lucci, you interview a bunch of artists. Have you ever seen, like, have you dealt with or, like, kind of like honed in on any of these type of conversations with about, like, jack of all trades or et cetera, et cetera?
Oh, very much so. One of my, because I do the show, the podcast, and it's not just a podcast; it's a network first and foremost. AWE, Art Without Ego. Promote local artists of all kinds. Stephen Barthel, one of my guests that I had on, I forget which episode it was. I think it was 9 or 10, something like that. And he actually talked about that, how back in when he was really going in the art scene, he was doing multiple things at once, and he realized mid-journey that he needed to kind of step back and, like you said, hone in on something that he was really, really specific about wanting to do. And I think, I'm guessing we're all artists here, safely. Okay. Yeah. It's at the end of the day, it's about the journey as well, because a lot of people don't know what their capabilities are unless they go out and try things. And sometimes people can try one thing and it goes great and they stick with that. And then sometimes people will try something and I'm like, let me try this. Let me try this. Let me try this. And sometimes people can juggle it. Sometimes they don't, but you find out on the journey, and sometimes you just don't know until you go for it.
That's true.
I could relate to a lot of these answers, and because also I do a lot of things. But when you were talking about like dialing in and honing in on things, and like you were just talking about trying things, it's really important to just try a bunch of shit. Because I was actually just talking to Mikey earlier about how doing this, doing that. But then now that I do music, I finally found something that doesn't feel like work. Because I used to draw a lot. I used to paint at AFH. Mikey taught me like a bunch of graphic stuff, and I used to do that freelance. And I did photography as well. And I was spreading myself really thin, like you said. And I feel like it was kind of eating away at my passion for what I was doing, and it just felt like just such work and just so much. But when I discovered music, like it didn't feel like work. It felt like the thing I'm supposed to be doing, and it allowed me to hone in and dial in on that, and that kind of became my center. But the importance of trying so many things is that all these different art forms are all connected. Art is one thing, and it's so fluid in the way that it moves through these things. And I'm so glad that I learned photography. I'm so glad that I learned graphic design and videography and all these things, because it kind of ties into my music and being a musician. Because rappers, singers, we need music videos, we need album art, we need logos, we need this and that, and all the things that I've been learning throughout the years seem to have been leading me up to this. So when it comes to being spread thin, and I forgot how you worded your first question when you were talking about dialing in on something, and like what helps you and stuff like that. But I feel like what helps me is that all the things that I do kind of go in the same basket, so it doesn't feel like so much. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
If you want to give us your final thoughts, I'm going to move on.
I agree with that. I think the basis of art is composition, right? You get that in music, you get that in film, you get that in visuals. The base of balance, scale, all those things. I mean, art in general, if you took the visual, and there's still the theories all the same. Yeah. And a lot of those theories go across the board. So that's why you'll have people who they don't know how good, they don't even know they're good at something until they pick it up. They're like, why am I so good at this? Oh, it's probably because I know composition, because I've been doing film for so long that I know how to balance my screen, thirds and golden ratios and things. And then when you apply it to other things, you realize, damn, I'm good at this too. So then it's just like, one, I suffer from creative anxiety. If I have an idea, I have to do it. And if I don't do it, I'm going to feel like I'm just going to keep having that anxiety, and whether if it's me going outside in the middle, like 9 o'clock at night, and I have to go look at my engine, or I have to go and draw something, I have to do it. It's been happening since I was a kid. I'll wake up in the middle of the night, like, I got to draw this. And then I'll go back to sleep.
Hell yeah.
So.
No, it's up.
Yeah.
That's real talk, 'cause I feel like being drawing and painting helped me with my photography and filmmaking, because like you were saying, learning composition, like the rule of thirds, like I would draw and paint and understand that I gotta look this way, and then when I put those things down and picked up a camera, I'm essentially doing the same thing, but in a different medium. You know what I'm saying? Like I forgot who said this, but it said in film every shot is a painting. These are two different mediums, but it's the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
No. It's all good. Next question is, like, what makes a piece of art meaningful? And like, if an artist makes something that means nothing to them, but people enjoy it, is it still meaningful? Because the most generic thing that people say is, like, if it's meaningful to you, then it's like, then it's a meaningful piece. But we seen, what was it? That dude that went on Oprah that made 1,000 pieces. That book. Does anyone? The book.
And it was fake.
It was fake, but it meant so much to so many people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is it meaningless, or is it meaningful? But I'll let you guys cook.
Well, what I can say is, art. We can all agree that art is subjective, right?
Yeah.
So, that being said, they always say like a word, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And also, like, what you see is a 6, I see a 9. So it's all about perceptions. What you see, in what you get out of the picture or the cinema or the music too, because you have to use your senses to pick up the information that's out there. So, what I can say is, I learned to appreciate like all types of art, because imagine like being in a country where you can't even be able to, express your art. People look at you and like they really like prosecute you for like speaking out or being able to like tell the world about yourself. So, it only matters that I specifically wanted it to be out because it's significant to me. And that's a way to basically express myself. It's therapeutic. So I already made it. I already drew the line in the grass that I was only gonna do this for me, and only me, because I love doing this shit. If I had to do it for anybody else, it wouldn't be love. It would be work. So music, it is composition work, but to me, it's still like a piece. It's still my happy space, you know, and it's always helped me survive. So, yeah.
I remember the rapper Biggie Small said something like, every time I make an album, I act like this is my first album. Because when you first come out, that's when you're your hungriest. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes down the line, you stop giving a fuck because it becomes more work. I remember Nikki Minaj said in an interview that, you know, I used to take my bars real serious, but I started to learn that I could say anything, and y'all will eat that shit up. So, like, why even try? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
it doesn't even matter.
But are those bars still meaningful, even if she just fucking shitted them out?
I mean, that's funny. That's funny you say that because in another genre, Kurt Cobain, the lead singer of Nirvana, a lot of people ask him, what is the meaning of your lyrics? Like, what do they mean? Like, you say this and you say that. Like, what do you mean? And he literally said in the interview, they don't mean shit. They don't mean anything. Like, I just be writing stuff. I just say stuff and I just yell it on stage and people just love it. So, like, I don't know. Like, sometimes it just comes to me. I just write a song. The first thing that pop in my mind, I just write it down. Boom, boom. We go in the studio. Boom, it's a song now. You know what I'm saying? And then like you go to the Beatles. I don't listen too much of the Beatles, so I can't give you examples of their shit. But they'll have like love songs and songs that make sense. And then they started doing acid, and now they have songs like "We All Live in a Yellow Submarine," like "I Am the Walrus," "Cuckoo Cuckoo." Like these guys are tweaking. they bugging out. So it's like I don't know, man. And when you go into abstract art, like you know what I'm saying,
like a visual artist might put out like say like a just blank white things, call it LeBlanc.
I was just about to get into that. Because us visuals, if we go to galleries and stuff, and people are like, "Yo, what does that mean, bro?" I don't know. I had pieces to put up, and they need to sell. That's what needs. That's what that means. That's what that means.
That's what that means.
To sell.
It means I'm hungry, man.
I'm hungry. Are you gonna buy?
Are you gonna buy? And I actually had this conversation earlier where it's like, they were touching on it. We create not for the sake of others. We create because we're creators. We got that creative spirit. There's something that is in us that pushes us to do something. And we had the conversation earlier. It's like all these different mediums, or even coming back to the jack of all trades, is like the creative outlet. So there doesn't necessarily have to be a like deep rooted meaning to anything. I just have this urge. How you talking about you waking up in the middle of the night and stuff. I have this urge. I have this idea. It needs to come out. Me currently, I want to tell stories. I love fantasy genre. That's what gets my brain going. So I'm just making things that are fantasy related. They don't have any super specific meaning all the time. Sometimes they do. But I remember I went to a convention and I was showing my art, and somebody asked me what was the meaning of the character that I made. And I'm like, well, she's part of the story. She has like, I gave her, the description, but she was like, but what does it mean? What made you want to make this one?
Trying to find some deeper rooted
meaning? And I just kept giving as much information as I could. And she was still fishing for the answer, and I'm like, yo, I don't have the answers beyond that. I gave you what I could give. How it feels to you, because that was one of the characters that resonated with her. So she ended up buying pieces of it. And I'm like, that if it feels like you're connected to this, then that's on you. I appreciate that. I love that. That's powerful. But there's two parts of it. It's like artists, we create, and then people who observe, they can connect to it, whether we connect to it or not. I was talking to one of my friends earlier this morning. Is like your art will take on a form of its own after you put it out there. So you could be completely emotionally disconnected from what you made. How many of us have made pieces that look like shit?
Yeah, and someone liked it.
And someone liked it. That happens to me. But that's because we're always like, there's a sense of progression for us, right? And it's like we always are pushing ourselves beyond our limits. Yeah. And if in your soul you can do better than what you put out, and you see what you put out, and you're like, yo, that's shit. Somebody walks in and was like, yo, that's dope. It's like, okay, maybe I'm wrong for thinking that it's entirely shit. It's just my perception.
Yeah. No.
Let me get Mikey and then Elijah.
Just from coming with from the graphic design background, whenever you have a client, right? Client says, yo, I got this dope idea. First of all, most clients don't even know anything about art, right?
Yes,
they come. The reason why they come to an artist is for their foresight, right? So then our job, and we're tasked with, is to give them a gamut of samples, styles, something that they can just grab onto. And But there's a lot of times, and I'm sure a lot of us agree, we want to make 4 samples. Mm-hmm. 1 sample, we're like, yo, this is the fire. This is gonna sell. Mm-hmm. But the client chose the dirt. The client chose the garbage. Every time, and I don't get it. I never will get it. But that's why, like, when I talk to other designers, we say, yo, make the best, make the dirt, and then make the one in the middle. Mm-hmm. Because that's the only way you can control these people who know nothing about art. Mm-hmm. And that's really our job, is that they come up to us and they want our advice, but they also want us to brainwash them. They want we have to wave this magic wand and say, this, you're going to like this. And this is the one you need to like. Mm-hmm. And we have to find a creative way to guide them to that road or through that road, because again, they come in there mad ignorant. Mm-hmm. They just found you online, or somebody said, yo, this guy, he knows how to produce. And they come in there with these dreams and visions and some quirky shit that you're just like, I don't get what you're coming at, but I'm going to try all of it. Mm-hmm. And none of it sticks. Some of it sticks. And you're like,
and you gotta say, like, this fits your vision. This other thing is, it sucks. This fits your vision.
And sometimes they don't even care about what you say. And then they be like, yo, this guy don't know what he's talking about. Then they go to the next designer and they be like, man, you crazy. Because the next person gonna give you a headache. And I hear those clients that say, I've been to 3 designers. I've been to 4 designers. I wonder why. I wonder why you're at your 4th or 5th designer. Oh, it's probably because you lack vision. You lack understanding of what we're doing. So there's a disconnect, and you're still demanding results, but you don't even know how to do the R&D. You're not even researching this stuff. You're just coming out here saying, I need a logo. Well, what is a logo? Look at the logos, compare them. Actually do the study. Because if I do the study for you, you're going to read it and still say the same dumb thing. You need to do it, you know? And that's the hard part to get clients. I'm the one paying you, though. Yeah, I'm going to give you some advice. Go find out a little more about what you're talking about, and then come to me before you waste my time.
No, that's true. And I will say that, like, a lot of times clients come looking for something super extravagant, but when it comes to logos, like, logos are very, like, simplistic.
Bruh.
But that's what it goes into. But, like, that's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
Elijah, you were going to say something?
Oh, yeah. I feel like a lot of times, like, transaction kind of does, like, subtract a little bit of the meaning, because, you know, not to say there isn't meaning for transactional stuff, but it's kind of like, all right, we're going to maybe use this for profit or something. So, you know, like, what the intention is. But, like, speaking on what you were saying most about, like, art being subjective, it brings to mind this, like, this phrase. It was like something like, there's no objective truth in matters of taste or something like that. Because it's like, it's what you sense. And I always, like, I'll joke with this person I work with, and like, I'll say something and she'll be like, that wasn't funny. And I'm like, it's called a sense of humor, right? If you didn't sense it, that's on you. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like when people say, you smell that? Nah, I don't smell it. Oh, your sense is off. You know what I mean? So, like, that's what it is. I think part of the meaning of art is, like, how other people sense and perceive it. So in that way, it's subjective. And also, I think one of the beautiful things about art, and why I have such a soft spot for all my artist friends and for everybody in here, is that it's about the how artists intentionally apply their attention. Like, Taj, you were showing me your work earlier, and I thought it was cool because, like, I try to put myself in your shoes, and I'm like, okay, she made these decisions. She was here doing this. Like, everything was intentional. None of it was. I mean, there was a few that seemed like you were just kind of free-forming, which is cool too, because when you have a grasp of the basics, then you get to a point where you can transcend, and maybe you're not actually being super intentional, because, like, you just have that moment where it was just a moment, it happened. But I think we can appreciate, like, the intention behind it, and I think that's what makes art, like, super meaningful, is to be like, damn, they really did that. But if you don't have a sense of it, and you're just like, that was trash. It's like, yo, put yourself in their shoes. Like, those were intentional decisions they made to make that piece of art, and that's really cool. Yeah.
I also feel like the lines can get real blurred when, like, somebody's really digging for the meaning and shit, but, like, say a magician does a magic trick in front of you, and that was amazing. And then they go, that was great. How'd you do it? If they showed you step by step how they did the magic trick, suddenly it's not as fantastic. It's like, oh, you hit it up your sleeve. Oh, okay. So, like, when somebody asks you what's the meaning of your work, and you say, oh, you know, like, when I was a kid, and then this happened, and then I just wanted to, like, bring back to that memory, and then you explain your work to them, it takes the magic out of your work by explaining your work all the time. So I feel like when it comes to meaning, you're talking about it being subjective and stuff, it kind of has to be, you know what I'm saying? Because if I explain it to you in an objective way, it becomes pale and just dry. Like,
Is that
Is that what?
Is that always true? Because I'm saying, like, if you intentionally put a meaning behind your work, if, like, say, like, you drew this picture or you drew this or you painted something and you explicitly had a meaning behind it, or say, like, Lucy, you're a poet. Yes. So everything you write is probably intentional. You probably have an intentional meaning behind all your, not all of them, but a lot of your work. Yeah. And if someone came and said, like, wow, I got this from that, and that was, like, so far gone from what you were trying to portray or trying to get them to see, would you feel like they devalued your work in a way that they interpret it to be something else?
That's actually happened multiple times.
I bet. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. Y'all were talking, and I want to kind of piggyback what you were saying to kind of answer your question. One of the phrases I always use all the time is, there is no hierarchy in self-expression. And what I mean by that is, yes, it is subjective, but because of that uniqueness in its subjectivity, it goes back to the same definition as beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So if I create something and if I know that there was something deep behind it, you can't tell me any different. So it doesn't matter what you say. I know what I did, and that was my intention. Now, intention versus impact, that's a whole different story. Because you can have the best intentions, but if you have a bad impact, then it's up to you as an artist to say, okay, is it worth revisiting this, or is it just what it is? And I've had experiences where I've written poetry where I had one set of reactions prepared, and then the crowd had a completely different reaction to it. And, it was a combination of, self-awareness for myself, as well as progression of my own work. So it all depends on intention versus impact at the end of the day. I think it's what it comes down to.
Intention versus impact. That's a conversation on its own.
I like that, yeah.
Does anyone have any experience with intention versus impact? Anyone else? Oh, you okay? What happened with you?
I think this might have been back when we was doing like Inner Sanctum stuff, but like I was painting a lot more.
Shout out to Inner Sanctum.
Back in the day, shout out.
But like I was painting a lot more, and I was doing a lot of small shows, whether it was with Inner Sanctum or just like random people who had like venues for like pop-up shops and stuff. And I remember I was purposely putting things in there. It was my intention to have certain meanings in some of my paintings, and then there were other ones that I had a series called Spacebound, and everything in it was literally just me just creating anything space themed, using nebulas, adding whatever, because I could not go wrong. And I had somebody come up and tell me that, yo, my nebula was wrong, and it's like, yo, bro, have you been to space? Have you seen space? and it there was no like intention beyond that from me, but I impacted this person to the point where like they was like, yo, nebula, this is a nebula, you did it wrong. Like, no. And I'm like, but look at, you swipe some more. Look at all of this. It's a bunch of colors.
Yeah.
Space dust. Look at the painting. Bunch of colors. Black background. Space dust. Like, to me, I accomplished the job, but their perception of what a nebula was very different from, like, I felt it was more freeing, and that's why I made the series. And they felt like I did not achieve the constraints of what a nebula is supposed to be.
I was gonna ask,
making people mad sometimes.
I was gonna ask a question about like, what have you guys seen that are like a lot of issues with like a lot of up and coming artists today? Elijah, I know you have your brand, which is Creative Strength. That's your Instagram, and then you kind of talk about plateauing, or what are a lot of issues that you see with a lot of artists today, or people who want to become artists? Put you on the spot.
I feel like where to begin?
Tisk, tisk.
No, I got so much love for my artists. I feel like the biggest challenge right now is it might not even be for the artists. It's just that because the barrier for entry is so low, there's just a lot of artists out there, and I feel like a lot of artists don't know how to put themselves out there in the best possible way. So, for example, if you are a jack of all trades, they might not know how to leverage being a jack of all trades to the best of their ability. Or, for example, like something I've been thinking about a lot for music artists is like artists come out with a new song, and their only form of promotion is basically making a post and saying link in bio, and that's it, right? It's like, but realistically, a good way to do it, to stretch it out, would be to like take the idea or the themes from this song, right? Now translate it to one of the other mediums that you do if you're a jack of all trades. So if the song is about, I was listening to your song on the way here. It was like I just want to vibe with you or whatever.
I just want to vibe with you.
That song's fire, by the way. Thank you. You know what I mean? But like, for example, take the theme from that song. Maybe let's say I'm just riffing here, but let's say it's about togetherness, right? Now take the theme from that and I'll translate it into like a film, translate it into this. So now like you take the song and you make it a moment. And I think that's one of the big challenges that artists are facing, is like how to take the things that they do and make it a moment rather than just one singular post.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Your question is about upcoming artists, right?
Like local, upcoming. Yeah. It could be upcoming. It could be local. It could be your peers.
Or just new artists in general.
Yeah.
Just anybody. I think the first key, I personally think, is conception. Is being conceptual. Some people lack being conceptual. The idea of how do I take everything that I know and put it together in one. I know there's a lot of people who get frazzled with trying to create a concept.
Frazzled.
They get super frazzled. They're like, if you pitch them an idea, you get designers who are like, they get those clients that are very hard, and they come out and they say, I want this, I want that, I want this, and then the first time designer's like, I don't know what this person wants, and then they go try to do the R&D, and they try to do all the things the way that school taught them or the way the system taught them, and then they realize it doesn't work like that. It usually never works the way that the system teaches you it works. It's really about feeling it out. You really, being an artist is all touch, smell, like you said, senses. Yeah. You really got to go out there and feel the atmosphere. You got to feel your clients. You can have a rigorous system that you follow, but I guarantee you, for every 10 clients, that system actually works.
Yeah.
In between that, you got to just feel that client, be like, yo, how do I guide this person to the best of my ability? And also just being an artist, like, how do I even get this guy what he wants? Also within my timeline. Because I'm not.
So are you saying like self-doubt is like a big thing that you see?
Self-doubt, but also people just jumping in so deep. You jump so deep into the water. You're like, I'm gonna. And I just had a conversation with somebody else. I said, what's your worth? You just got into the game.
Oh shit! Yeah.
You just got into the game. You're telling me you're gonna charge $150 an hour? You're bugging. Where's your logos? Where's your layouts? Let me see
your portfolio.
How dense it is.
But I mean, like finding like artist worth and finding your prices is kind of like a hard thing.
It's super hard. Yeah. And the thing is, you got to know your worth, but you don't know your worth until you test it. You got to test who you are, and a lot of testing means you got to give shit for free. You got to give shit on discount. Yeah. You got, because you can't be coming in swinging saying I'm Mike Tyson. You're not.
But isn't that what testing your worth is? You coming out like Mike Tyson, but you didn't knock anybody out.
Yeah, but I mean, you didn't even go to the court once. You didn't do no training.
So you got knocked out.
You got knocked out. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like when I deal with some people and they say, yo, Mikey, I want to be a designer. Yo, put me on. I'm like, show me your portfolio first. Then I look at the portfolio, and the first thing I look for is composition, anatomy, some of the basics. And if I see that, I could tell right away that you're a designer. Like, just from your sketches, even from a doodle. It has nothing to do with how good you are in any program. Anybody can pick up Adobe Illustrator today. Anybody can pick up Adobe Photoshop. Bro, there's an institute now for anybody. It's really just understanding who you are, how you're gonna get there, and a lot of it is free work. You got to get the portfolio up. You got to get your name out there. You can't be trying to swindle people for $150. You make a crappy logo and then they tell everybody, yo, he charged $150 for this crap. And then all of a sudden your name has been destroyed. You destroy your name. But if you come in the game saying, I'm gonna come humble, yo, what you need, I'm gonna do the best that I can, and then you do a little reciprocation, give me some. And then you build your portfolio. Then you're like, yo, I'm getting good at this. Then you feel your worth. You say, okay, now I feel like I'm gonna change my quota. That's another thing I tell people. Is like, make sure that quota changes. Don't be stagnant.
I was gonna say, using a lot of sales terms.
This guy.
I'm a businessman.
Do you think that? So he's asking about the problems that are facing artists, and you immediately jumped into like a lot of like corporate lingo.
Yeah.
R&D, sales. Do you think that like that? Do you feel like that is an issue too? Is that like because you said like that one dude was trying to come in immediately charging prices. Like artists start out just really being like it's a money making endeavor for me strictly, and if that doesn't work out, then like I'm no longer an artist.
No, I think you could be an artist no matter what. It's just if you're gonna do this and play this game to make profit, play the game like how everyone plays the game.
Respect.
You talk to any businessman, it doesn't matter if this dude's selling shoes, he's selling Hot Pockets. They all got the same idea. Now, you gotta come in as an artist and be like, yo, how did this guy sell them Hot Pockets like that? How do I apply it to my field?
Wait a second, but you're saying that for the digital in the graphic art field, but you being in the music field, have you seen that a lot? Like people saying like, yeah, if I'm not gonna make money like making this track, then I'm not gonna fucking rap at all.
You know how many friends I have that is like, yo, I'm gonna do this thing and then I'm gonna blow up and get rich. Like that's the first thing you thought before you even like. Yeah. You know what I mean? Before you even picked up the pencil.
They said, I'm going to the moon, baby. And it's like, bro, get the rocket ship. Build it. Find out the tools you need.
But there's definitely that in the graphic design world, too. Because people like, I'm just picking up graphic design just to fucking, like, make money. And then they, you know, maybe they don't have the skills for it. And they're like, I'm not doing this shit. But they didn't give that craft its due diligence because they love it. They were only doing it because they want to fucking...
Graphic design is tedious. That's why. Do you see... I mean, graphic design is forever evolving. People want to do modern. They didn't want to do abstract. They didn't want to do cutesy. Like, there's just so many styles in graphic design. You can go down this whole street. Some guy paid a designer to do an ugly-ass banner for this dude's store. But he sold it. You know, there's designers who will design something amazing and still get paid. There'll be some designers who design crap and still get paid. It's a weird economy we live in as graphic designers, because literally it's the guy who's like, I'm only gonna find I want a graphic designer who's gonna charge me $50. So then you get the crappy designer who can only who's charging you $50, but you're gonna get a $50 looking design. And then those clients, and then we go back to the client thing. The client says, why does this look so trash? Well, you get what you pay for, you know. And then you know what I'm saying? So if you really want it to look beautiful, that's why I go back to the whole do the R&D, because it's like, why did my product come out like this? Why am I not making sales? You know, why aren't things progressing? It's because there's a lot of thought that you have to put into that process before you actually put it in fruition. Like, where's the, you know, like, and again, it's all business, you know, it is, where's the proposal? Even what you said you had a plan, you had a goal. You said, hold up, this is not fitting my goals. You're doing business, bro. You looking at the 5-year projection. You said, I need to hit these points. If I'm not hitting these points, I'm cutting this out. You know, there's a famous thing, not famous, there's a well-known thing within the business community is, if you ain't making profit in 5 years, cut it out. Stop doing it. If you didn't see more each year, get out of it, because you're about to sink. You're going to sink.
All right, Mos, how do you feel? Because you said it was therapy. So therapy in business.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? You said it's therapy for you, not business. So, like, I'm curious to hear your reaction.
So there's this thing that Shane would always say, because we talked about it. He said you could be hot, you could be cold, but you can't be lukewarm. You got to know what you want to do. Do you want to make music to make money? Do you want to make music as a hobby? Or do you want to make music as a career? You know, but you got to pick either one of the three, you know? So I think all of us, we have our whys, which is important, you know, but that being subjective, it's still the battery on each and every one of our backs. So like music, like I said, like I do this for love, but at the same time, I'm open-minded. I'm learning to be open-minded because
you ready for the money?
Listen, it's never ever for the money. No, me, it's never for the money. But like, think about it like this: the spider, very crafty but small, it still needs to learn how it can be able to eat. You know what I'm saying? So there's times where the spider has to make the prey come to it. So it got to be able to make sure that no matter what, it's utilizing everything that God gave it to help it be an accurate hunter, you know, or an accurate, you know, predator or whatever. So it's like, but me as like,
are you the spider?
No, well,
the artist is a spider.
The artist is a spider.
He's trapped in his web, bro.
Gotcha. Yeah, exactly.
That whatever it is, whether it's
Sorry, can you just take a mic?
Yeah, and
whether it's the philosophy, which is like, you know, whether it's the therapy which is the fly, whether it's the money that's the fly, at the end of the day, your fly looks different than the other spider's fly. But you're still catching a fly. And how we gonna catch this fly? Yours is for food. Yours is you want to be a fat fly. That's cool. Me, I could do a couple flies a week. That's what's up. But we still catching flies.
I'm popping these flies now.
Yeah, exactly. We're all in the safari, man.
Yeah.
As long as the lion is still getting its meat, as long as the crocodile's still getting its meat, as long as even the herbivores like the ox, the water oxes, or the elephants, or the gazelles. As long as everybody's eating and good at their craft, we can coexist. But as far as the most fervent, the most fervent thing that as an artist, desires is being able to have integrity. That's important. No matter, I don't
100%.
care who you are, bro.
Because what I was gonna say is that even when we're going back to the main question of this not the main question, the question I posed, it's what is a lot of artists that were around issues. I would say it's consistency and insecurity. At least that's what I see in my network. People are just they don't put out their stuff. They don't put out their portfolio because no, I could do better. I could do better. I could do better. Bruh, put your shit out, nigga.
Yeah. No.
And then consistency. Also because their insecurity is you're wishy-washy. You're well, I don't know if this can be my way of life or...
That's what I'm saying. The lukewarm. You know what I'm saying? You have to be hot or you have to be cold, but you can't be lukewarm. Motherfuckers will spit you right out. So it's you building into that, what you said. You just have to be confident. You have to be confident. And you also have to have a rollout. You have to have everything that will push you. You got to have a team. You got to have a machine. But sometimes if you don't have less, make with what you can do. That's what we as artists know how to do. We can make less with more. We can turn, we can just, it's about how you do it and how you're able to put something special behind it. Whether it's marketing, whether it's, promotion, all these things are the forces that are going to push your art,
Also, to go back to the root of the question you were asking about what, up and coming or young artists start with, I would say one of the most important things, man, that a lot of people want to skip is the basics. Sticking to the basics or going back to the basics. Yeah. Like you were saying earlier about how a bunch of young kids want to draw now. They just want to do anime because they see it and they're trying to imitate and emulate that. But you're starting on the outside first. You're starting with the skin. You just want to draw skin. Nah, but you got to draw bones. You got to go deep in there. You got to go deep into the anatomy and then move into the skin, because then your anime is gonna look way better, way more fleshed out. The mangas that I really love are stuff like Berserk, where every panel looks crazy, dog. They're this dude knows anatomy. He didn't just start with the skin. I want to draw anime. I want to draw people, you know what I'm saying, and then make it look anime after. And I used to draw a lot of anime back in the day, but when I started to do real life and skeleton and the that type of stuff, it pushed my anime to a whole nother level. But now that I do music, I started just doing music because I wanted to, and I'm just doing things that sound nice, okay, but I couldn't understand why certain things didn't sound nice. Why does it sound like there's clashing here? Why does it sound muddy? Why does it da-da-da-da-da? Until I went back and started studying music theory. And that's when I started to know, this is out of key. That's why this doesn't sound right together. So I was trying to start from the outside. I want to make a sick ass beat, but I didn't even know fucking how to. I had to go deep into the bones of it and understand these sounds need to all be in the same key, and if this is not in the right key, I need to transpose it or move the MIDI or do this or do that to make everything work. And that launched my music to a whole nother place. Now even beats that I feel are mid, other people yo, this is a vibe, because everything sounds good together. And so many producers that I've known or ran into, they don't even know music theory. They're just putting things together. They don't know how to EQ the low end of the melody out so that the 808s can come in. You're not doing none of this due diligence. You're just trying to throw together some shit that sound like something Metro Boomin made. You know what I'm saying? So going to the basics, going to the very core elements, even going back to drawing. I want to draw people so much. Yeah, but draw shapes. Organic shapes, apples, circles, a chair, rectangles. You start with cubes and triangles. like just start with basic shapes.
Master
and then,
the shapes.
Yes.
Master
then
the
you can
shapes.
throw the skin on it after, you know what I'm saying?
Like that. Yo, just like that. I'm sorry, I'm a SpongeBob fan, but there's this episode of SpongeBob.
Doodlebug?
Is it Doodlebug?
I'm sorry.
Come on, bro.
No, that too. But there's an episode where like you gotta be the marble. You know what I'm saying? Like that right there. I feel like that episode is for artists. Because I feel like that is for artists. You know what I'm saying? Because it's teaching you about going back to the basics. Going back to the basics.
It's a creative strength.
I gotta say one thing. Just what you were saying, like consistency and insecurity. I gotta say one thing, especially you gotta be the marble thing. That's gonna stick with me. But
Let's go.
yo, art is for babies. It's for kids. It's for old people. It's for the disabled. It's for cavemen and women back in the day. All of that aside from industry. So you don't have to have a team. You don't have to have shit. You just need to have yourself and a desire to make art. That's it. Like,
Amen.
Industry aside, you don't have to have anything. Now, industry is a whole separate thing from art, and I feel like for me, the reason I went with creative strength is because I felt like the thing that I wanted to do was personal training for artists. And so when you're training, right, you train for something in particular. So if you're a boxer, because like I used to be an athlete, so that's kind of like I compare a lot of things to that. If you want to train for boxing, you're going to train differently than anything else. So if you want to train for art industry, you're going to train different than a baby who's doing finger painting. They're both art at the end of the day, but it's like what are you decide what your target is and what you're training for, and that's going to determine the nature of your practice and the skills that you're building. But I don't think that art inherently has to like really have anything other than expression to be art. I just wanted that to be
Art
said.
is
It's
expression.
it's expression.
It's,
So
the key is expression.
So it is for everybody at all levels, ages, abilities.
And back to his caveman part, there was art.
There was art.
There was art.
It's the most human thing.
With clay, mud, whatever they could find. They said, I got to visualize this on the wall. I cannot forget this story. So I'm gonna write this story about how I killed this animal. So
that shit was lit.
Yeah, it was dope, man. So back then they was like, oh my gosh, can you put this in my wall in my cave? And then all of a sudden you got this dude who's the muralist, and the stories we don't know about this one caveman who's just walking everybody's cave like, this is how you kill a bull. This is how you kill a bull.
And Dante, I know you gotta say something, so wrap us up.
Yeah, just to touch on the caveman stuff. I remember years ago somebody asked me about like what was the most important thing to humanity, math or art, and my response was art, because without art we would not have the symbols that create the language which we interpret as numbers. Art exists everywhere throughout humanity. All of our written history is all somebody designed those characters that we put and associated with things. But more than anything, how I had to break it down to them was like, yo, I don't know Japanese, I don't know Chinese, but if somebody in China or Japan drew a picture of a dog, I know what that dog is.
Yeah.
Because we started off with symbolism, caveman paintings, to tell our stories, to tell or to transcribe our perception of reality. And then the things came in later. Yes, math, we now understand like that's a part of our understanding of our reality, right? We can quantify certain things. We can break down equations to help us understand the world around us. But people didn't need to know that to exist. But people did need to know how to communicate. And communication, part of it started with our caveman paintings and stuff, or even just verbal storytelling. There's an art to that. So
100%.
Hold on.
As soon as you start bringing up caveman paintings, I gotta speak real quick.
And also distance too, because a lot of people had boats. So you had to be able to like had a map.
People were designing boats before they knew what math was. But we can use math to improve our designs so that they're structurally sound. But people were doing it before we could comprehend the full extent of what was happening.
So
last time before we take our break.
Okay, so communication, right? Drawings on the wall. We're trying to tell people a story. I used to be pagan, right? I used to just try
pagan. Okay.
I used to try to study where did language come from? Why do we use these letters? How can we identify these sounds now? It all started with communication on on walls, and then all of a sudden we came out with language. You know, language actually is a form of witchcraft, just language in general. And the reason why it's a form of witchcraft, or considered a form of witchcraft, is because you're controlling people with sound. You're getting information into someone's brain with sound. You have the ability to manipulate anybody with sound. That's why you get presidents who come out there and they know exactly what to say. They know how to take your brain and restructure it through sound and rhythm. That's why.
So they should have burned everybody during the Salem witch
Yo,
trials.
straight up, because people don't understand that language is a form of art. We had to change those symbols, cow or whatever, into letters. And when we did that, we forgot that what we're looking at is still art. It's still creation. And now people who understand it fully know how to use it correctly. Other people just chop up the words and do the slang, and it's just like, bro, you're destroying the language. Yeah, you actually are destroying the language, because there's actual power within words. There's actual power within characters. So
that's where you get those charismatic people who can talk you into any, or salesmen.
Bruh, wordsmithing is not, it's real. Wordsmithing, there are people who study that shit.
On that note, Show and Tell Boston After Dark. We're about to take a small break, and we'll be right back. We'll be right back.
Smoke crack.
Even do that, and maybe not even in this space, but like talking like around the city, but about these certain aspects and ideas. Like, what do you consider good art? What do you consider bad art?
That's what say what is on the hierarchy scale.
Yes.
What is the quota? What is the status quo of what art sells? Because nowadays, a line will sell.
Yeah, depending on where you are.
Where you are. I mean, and then there was I saw recently a video of where this person was talking about Pablo Picasso. This woman walked up to Pablo Picasso with a napkin and said, "Yo, draw me something on this." And he went, and gave it to her. He said, "Now I want $600,000." He said some stupid number. She goes, "Why you on that? You just did it in 2 seconds." He said, "No, it took me 47 years to do this in 2 seconds."
Now, but like, if I was to challenge that, right? Now, the AI art, right? That is the equivalent of fucking millions of people's experiences,
hundreds of hours,
all into 1 second, right? Yeah. Now, is that art as valuable, or is that art as should it be as expensive?
I will argue immediately. I have a response to that. No, because art is a very intimate relationship with humans in our world.
Yeah, it's total soul.
You think so?
Yes. I would say my opinion. Is that art is very intimate with like human existence. We created something else that AI at its fundamental thing is like, as it is right now, it's not where it can be. But if we think about like sci-fi and stuff, AI is artificial intelligence. Something that can exist and think and do on its own, right? So AI would have ownership of that art. It's not a human thing. It's the AI's thing. Whatever AI made that thing is that AI's thing. But where we are in the existence of AI, we haven't reached the level of that. So where we are right now is that it's in limbo, where like people are just throwing things into something that is using a database that was based off of human art. But with human code.
Yeah.
So therefore, it falls more into theft more than anything right now, which is where all that debate is.
But nobody is theft. But nobody can claim AR.
Yeah. So that's what I was about to say. Nobody can claim it right now. But when AI, if it does eventually reach
plagiarism,
if it reaches what we've seen in sci-fi, right, where they make an AI, they don't train it on anybody else's art, and that AI is so advanced that it can actually think, feel, and comprehend to a human capacity to the point where it can create
without reference.
Without deep reference. Yeah. Then you would reach a point where it's like, okay, the AI is creating art. However, it does not belong to a human. It belongs to the AI. That's like
so it might look completely different. What if it might be a whole different genre?
Because it might be
that will open up an entirely
exactly.
But say what if deviant art? Say like one of the things to sign up to this platform was to say like, well, you have to submit that all your art can be attributed to AI art. So whoever wants that information can take it and they can create that art.
So what I'm getting at is like, fundamentally, if you're submitting art to an AI, that AI is it can't be considered an artist. And anybody who's trying to take art that's created from that AI, that's like that falls along art theft, in my opinion. That's
but
what
great artists steal, right?
But in different ways.
We remake and we add
in
our
different
soul
ways.
into it.
So
you like AI?
No, I like AI.
You like AI? You feeling it?
Yeah. So, like, no, there are cool things that AI can do. Absolutely.
Yes.
I was on board for AI until we found out how I was getting it.
I kind of those practices need to be refined.
And that's where the biggest problem is.
AI is the reason why we have mass population, right? Technology in general is the reason why this world is poisonous, right? People need to die. Sorry.
Damn.
No. But that's the thing.
There's something about that though. It's true.
If people we are prolonging our lives in an inadequate way. We're not if you're predestined to live to that age or you did not take care of yourself, you're actually not meant to be here, and I'm so sorry. But you shouldn't now like these rich bastards who be like, I'm gonna get 10 hearts in me. Like, bro, if it's time to go, it's time to go.
Yeah, there's a certain line where it's like there's only so much you can do. Now to add to the conversation about that, it's like we've prolonged our lives and like we're still trying to do so, but the counter, I don't think it's necessarily inherently bad that we're prolonging our lifespan. The counter is, like you said, rich bastards, and it's like the misuse of all this extra time that we're getting, and instead of like doing things that help society as a whole, we're instead absorbing ourselves and poisoning our planet faster than ever because the people who are doing the poisoning are living long, or the people who are in control can afford 10 hearts, and they're the people who are in control of like these companies or whatever that are doing like oil spills or just like harvesting too many resources from one day just to maintain the status that they have, right? Versus like you and I, like the general population, is like we're just trying to survive day in, day out, right? So it's like even though our lives are being prolonged as well as a result of medical technology, it's like
okay. Show and Tell Boston After Dark. We're here for our part 2 for our panel with artist philosophy, and I just want to ask you guys again. Actually, not again, but I was asking you guys, what do you think are some of the biggest issues you see with a lot of local artists, a lot of your peers? And I want to ask you guys, do you see that, like, do you think a lot of artists prioritize expression over mastery of their craft? Or do you guys prioritize expression over craft?
That's an interesting question because expression, sometimes I just practice the craft just to get that out of the way, exercise some muscle and just see, okay, what am I capable of? Where are my boundaries? What do I have to practice on? Because sometimes if I go in there with intention, it could be like counter effective. I'm coming in with intention, but I haven't really practiced the craft a little bit. Say for example, if I want to do a dragon, if I want to illustrate a dragon for somebody, right? I'm a good illustrator, but I've never done many dragons, you know? So it's like, okay, now I have to practice that craft. And sometimes before the even clients come in, it's good to just say, what is a potential craft that I should practice before these clients come in? And then the part of expression, I think a lot of us agree, especially if we're doing it for work, there's the expression side, and then there's the craft side, there's the business side. There's so many sides to it. And because it's there's multifaceted feelings attached to art that, one day you're just doing it just cause like, man, I just got to produce something. And the other day it's like, let me practice something. And the other day is like, yeah, this client needs something and I need to practice it. So me, these days, like I realize just like what you said in the earlier segment about being goal oriented, that is where, and even before when we talk about jack of all trades, so I'm a jack of all trades, but my goal orientated self is saying, you know what, let me focus on some illustration, let me go get a clothing line out, let me just push this and see what happens. But as far as it making me feel good, I realize sometimes I need a story. Sometimes in order to sell, You know, when it comes to marketing and advertisement, if you come in there just being expressive, like I just did this because I like it. Some people don't buy into that. So if you want longevity, you gotta have the expression, but there's gotta be a story. It's gotta have meaning. And then again, it's like it's very multifaceted. I feel that feeling, whether it's crafting or expression. I think you need it all, to tell you the truth. So
when it comes to like craft versus expression, I feel like I also look at it as two separate things as well. I look at it very simplistically, like a yin yang, like one supports the other. I feel like the more I practice the craft, the better I get at expressing myself.
Is that true? All right, keep going. I'm sorry.
With more mastery and understanding of what I'm doing, I can more deliberately say what I'm trying to say. I could more deliberately use certain colors. Because earlier I was talking about music theory, but like when it comes to visual arts, there's also color theory. So it's like there's all these different theories and things that come like together. There's ways to harmoniously do things and put a picture together. This is why one of my favorite art forms is film, because it combines music and imagery, motion, and like so many things together, and they're all working in the same tune to convey a certain feeling. So like I feel like the more you know, the better you do. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the two kind of support each other and feed each other in that way.
Expression and mastery of craft.
Yeah. To go into like what both of these guys were saying, I think intention is definitely necessary when you're riding that balance between the different facets. Yeah. Because like you were saying, sometimes I do need to practice that dragon, even though the end goal is I need to make money. This is for something that's being monetized, but I need to know what I'm doing. And then there's other times where like I usually keep a sketchbook, my iPad or something, and I'll just start going. And a lot of times in those instances, those end up becoming some of what I feel to be my best images, because it has like that raw energy, that creativity just going. I'm somebody who usually draws in pen when I'm working traditionally, so it's like mistakes, I gotta just work with them. So I'll put down a mark and just see where I can go, see what the shapes are, keep building it up. That allows me to practice exercising my creativity, because creativity in and of itself is a muscle, in the sense that it needs to be trained and needs to be worked. Because you run into people, I'm sure you probably know, dealing with clients, they have no creativity sometimes.
Yeah,
they have no creativity. Yeah. Or even like, coming to our previous question about, upcoming artists, sometimes they lack the creativity because they might be coming out of school where they were told they had to make this, they had to make that. Or they're only people who focus on still lifes or life art. They can only make something that they see, but they don't put any spins on it. They don't make anything unique to it. Or if you try to have them sit down in front of a piece of paper and they have no reference, they don't know what to do. So creativity in itself is something that needs to be practiced. And when it comes to expression, that's how you get that. But then the other side of it is like the technique. I can draw as many dragons as I want, and they could look detailed in different ways. And you have people who are really, really good when it comes to techniques that involve the basics and fundamentals that we were talking about earlier, shapes, color theory, etc., that can make a dragon, something that does not exist, look very realistic, because they're adding realistic things like scales and stuff from like lizards or fur and all these different things that do exist that we can interpret and understand. And that comes from technique. There's just no way you will be able to reach that level unless you practice and have an understanding of what you're doing.
Can I ask you guys a question? Because are you guys not coming across people who are looking for inspiration and looking for motivation before they work? Are you not looking? Do you not experience like artists who say like, "Well, I just don't feel inspired, so I'm just not going to do anything"?
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying when I see the biggest issues. I see like people who are just always looking for motivation and are not building the momentum for themselves.
I think that definitely does exist. I see it a lot. I think part of it is, like I said before, a lot of people that I see who are younger, they're coming out of college. They need guidance, and they don't know how to exist as an artist anymore without it. So they don't know how to express themselves. They don't have the exact goals because they're in that transitionary period where it's like, oh, I just graduated. I was an illustration major. Now I got to find the job as an illustrator. So they're focused on, I got to find the job. But in the meantime, their craft falls short because they don't know what to do. They don't have assignments. And I've always been somebody like, I was bad at school because I learned on my own. So I get heavily invested in anything that I'm interested in that I feel like, oh yeah, I can make that work. Very easy. This is why jack of all trades.
I hate that.
But yeah, I feel like that ends up being the case for a lot of people, is that they just don't have enough of a structure to guide them, and they have to learn that about themselves. That's part of their artistic journey, is figuring out what path they need to be on, what type of mindset that they need to be in order to still be an artist while still reaching for whatever the next like big structural thing is for them, the next milestone.
Elijah, let me ask you, as a dirty jack of all trades. I'm sorry, but what do you think artists should prioritize? The freedom of expression, or should they, get down and cracking down in their craft?
Their dirty craft.
The crafts.
I think.
I like that. Thank you.
I think all artists are like operating on like a certain axis. So you have like perfectionism and chaos on this side, and then you have like, you got perfectionism and chaos, and then you have like was it traditional and like non-traditional? You know what I mean? Or like not visionary. I don't know. Like, I don't know what you want to call it. Innovation and tradition, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I think like for most artists, is finding out where you are in that alignment, and then just understanding, like having the knowledge of self to be like wherever you are, it's just cool to be yourself. It's always gonna be cool to be yourself than to try to be another artist. So I think that's the hardest thing, is like a lot of people are looking for permission to be themselves in a creative space. And I know that earlier in my music making days, I made so much stuff. I think I must have made like 900 beats before I even shared one. Oh, shit. Which is like a stupid amount of beats to make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's dope, but it's terrible.
I think it's okay.
You think it's okay? He said he thinks it's okay.
It's all good, you know what I mean? I was working on my stuff, but at the same time, it depends, like, why is that? And I had to look into myself and just realize, like, it was just like, at a certain level, I thought I wasn't good enough to be able to share what I was working on with other people until it was at a certain point where it's just like, well, I'm just me. This is just me now. It's not perfect, but like I can accept that. So I'm just gonna put out what I'm doing now and hope that it finds the right people, and have like the self-esteem to know that if somebody tries to tear me down, it's just like, all right, that's cool. Like maybe I do suck right now, but like I love what I do, so I'm gonna keep going. So like, yeah, just be yourself. That's it.
Uchi, I see you picking up the mic.
I just want to make sure you're done. Just to kind of piggyback what everyone else has been saying. Everything that everyone has said like makes total sense to me, and it just connects so many dots easily to me in my mind. The beautiful thing about art is that it's so subjective that there's actually the possibility of there being a debate on what is and what isn't art. To me, speaks to the complete subjectivity that art even is. So now you have. Well, some people don't even think that. I've met so many people, and this is another reason why I started the Art Without Ego Network, is because I've met so many people, and I used to be one of these people who did not think that what I did was considered art. I've met people who do various types of things, poets, singers, writers, dancers, and they're like, nah, it's art, or not really, and stuff like that. And then I eventually they end up sharing it. Like I knew one guy a long time ago. I invited him to an open mic one night, and it was a packed house, and he was so inspired that 2 years later this guy had a book out. He'd never been to open mic, never before, and the only reason he was invited is because it was my first poetry feature, and like I was excited and just telling everybody about it. But I just remember that impact from that, and it's like I've met other people who don't even think they're artists, but it's like, really? You don't think that's art? And because to a lot of artists, I think this is a specific thing for artists. Whatever innate talents we have inside us, we usually don't know we even have them until someone else says, "Ooh, I like that." Because before that validation, you're just being yourself anyways.
So can we actually debate your name? Art without ego. Can you really have art without ego? Because isn't ego the most human thing you can have, and art is the most human thing you can make?
Absolutely. So the art without ego thing, first of all, it began as, I originally was just going to make it a poetry group. But then I was like, well, wait a minute, I like all kinds of art. And I promote mad artists anyways on my personal page at the time. So I was like, all right, let's call it art without ego. All art forms, no problem. The ego part is within the context of, it's like everything else in the, you all mentioned yin yang, the axis, everything we're talking about, these are all very synonymous terms with each other. Balance. It all comes back to balance. The more balance you have with yourself, your emotions, your mental state, whatever else you have in your life, the better off everything else is going to be. And that's including knowing what you desire and what you don't desire. So when I created the group, it was because I was around a bunch of people in the community from various different art platforms saying, no one supports each other, no one supports each other. Everyone stabs each other in the back, or they stop supporting. So that was the original idea behind it. So that was the idea, just to get people to come in. But the ego part, I think I'll go all the way around that for this. The ego part is really about having that balance of just enough ego to say, I am, but not being too much. Because if you're egotistical, people can sense that. Typically they can. And even if you try and conceal it sometimes, some people can still sense it because it's just a vibe that you have about yourself. And then people can tell when you're genuinely just trying to be yourself and not trying to be a dick. Okay. But, yeah, again, it's just about the balance. Having enough but not too much.
Let me ask you a few questions. Because when I hear art without ego, I think of like AI. That's the only thing that can have art without ego, because everyone, when you put out a track, when you put out a piece of painting, when you put out a piece of poetry, you're gonna have some ego attached to it. You have some feelings, some emotions. Like, people should take this as that, this. The only thing that's putting out things that they don't really give a fuck about is a fucking robot. It's AI. You know what I mean? That's what I think about art without ego. Now, can you really have art without ego? And I'm liking to hear about from Alfie, obviously, because this is your brand, and I'm just being a dickhead.
No, what's the official question?
Can you really have art without ego?
Not completely, because if you have no ego, then you'll have no desire to create. So again, it goes back to the balance of having enough to say, I desire to create something that does not exist, but it will in a few minutes. And it's because I thought of it and wanted to make it tangible. Exactly, manifestation, It's people talked about earlier, repetition. Some of my favorite, actors, musicians, they've all said the same thing. It can be annoying, but repetition, literally, like, whenever you do something once, that's one time. You do it twice, that's a whole different experience, because your body recognizes it because it didn't before. And the more it recognizes it, the more you get to know it. And now it's literally part of your being, to where you can own it, and you don't have to look at a paper or your phone. You can use body language. You can change your voice. You can do anything you want because it's yours. And that goes with any art form.
Now that I just... Go ahead.
All right, so ego, right? When we think about the word ego, right, do we tie in confidence, right?
It's part of ego.
It's part of ego,
Yeah,
right? So having confidence is good, right? You want to go on stage and perform with confidence, right? The crowd can feel that, right? Sometimes ego can come off as you being self-centered, self-righteous, self-glorified. But I think some of that is required, especially if people don't believe in you. If people don't believe in you in the beginning and they're like, who the hell are you? Who else is going to be your fan? Who else is going to rise you up? Sometimes you don't have the supporters there to be like, yo, you're amazing.
You got to pay for them.
You got to pay for, exactly. Or you got to give out free shit.
Yeah.
you know, and sometimes giving out free shit means that you belittle yourself. And you know, sometimes you feel like, yo, am I even worth it? People are grabbing my shit, but are they grabbing my shit because it's free? Or if I put a price tag on it, will they really buy it? You know, and then it goes back to the fact that what you said, you know, people are insecure sometimes, you know, and some of those cures are having a little bit of ego. You know, you have to adopt some of it to get out of your insecurities in order for you to gain the strength to go on stage, to continue every day, despite the fact that art is forever changing, communication is forever changing, and you need a little guidance through all this that's happening, because your insecurities, your doubts can destroy you. And especially as artists, we're all sensitive. We all have to be sensitive. I don't care if it's Lil Wayne or us. Everybody has to be sensitive to what's happening in the art world in order for us to be successful. Now, sensitivity and ego, it's like, well, how do you have sensitivity and ego? Well, just don't force it. Just don't force, just like anything. Just like, you know, if you, yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not going to go have that whole bag of chocolate by myself. I could, right? I could totally dig into that. But you know what? My body's telling me I got to share. I got to look at my community and read the room and be like, you know what? It's for the people, not for me. So the ego wants to be like, I love chocolate. I want to eat that whole thing. But then you got to control yourself. You got to say, is this the right time to show people that you want that chocolate, that you got to eat it all by yourself? Or do you want to go ahead and just lower that ego a little bit and be like, yo, before I eat all this, y'all want some? You want some? You know, so I believe that, like he said, there's got to be a balance, you know, because if you don't, with anything, first of all, if you don't know how to balance anything, you're not meant for this world. Duality is, without the sun and without the moon, we have nothing. Without the stars, without the sky, we don't know where to go. We need a lot of duality in this world in order for us to understand where our place is. And without the ego, without the sensitivity, we're just a pile of mud. We're just nothing. People are going to step all over us. We're not going to be solid. We're not going to be concrete, you know? And one day we want to be concrete. We want to make roads out of ourselves. We want people to be able to travel through us and we become something greater than ourselves. But in order to get there, you got to believe in yourself first. You got to give yourself that security. And sometimes the ego comes in and says, bro, you can do it. You can do it. You know, when you see those guys on stage and they're like, yo, everybody put your hands up, blah, blah. Some of that ego needs to be there in order to get the crowd to feel you. You can't be there like, yo, guys, do you mind if y'all put your hands up real quick? Hey, let me soften my voice for all of y'all. So, like, even earlier when we was talking about Michael Jackson don't got to say nothing. He ain't got to do nothing. His existence alone is energy. Right? And it's like, is it ego? Is he feeling himself? I mean, for the longest time, you look at him, you're like, yo, that dude look humble as shit. You know? But then you're like, but he's so powerful. How did he get raised up that high? Someone had to support him. Someone had to give him that confidence. You know? And then it goes into the idea of like, yo, I mean, I'm gonna go into a whole different thing about Michael Jackson. That's my
cheesy talk.
Yeah. So, but that's my 2 cents. Is like, you know what? We all need it. And regardless of how you feel, if you're a sad person in the corner, maybe you need some. Maybe I need to shed a little ego on you. You need to give yourself some empowerment. You know what I mean? Like, and then someone needs to train you and be like, don't get too carried away. And that's when I said earlier about don't come into the game trying to charge top shelf. Come into the game with confidence, but know your place. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying. Cheesy, you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I wanted to say something. Sorry about that. I'm a little bit like on the wave, like he was saying. On the wave.
Let's go.
I feel like when it comes down to art, it's all a perception. You know what I mean? Like it's not. It's more closer to like what you can see, like with your eyes closed. That's what I feel like when I think about my art. Like most of the things that I've created in the past couple years, it's been like something that I had a vision about, or something that I like wanted to express. I wanted people to feel about. So like I put a lot of energy into my stuff. So I know like every artist that does anything that connects to them, like they put a lot of that type of energy into it. For me, that's natural. That's away from ego. For me, that's like balance. For me, like when I do any type of creating, because God put us on the earth to create, I feel like that's the closest thing to being balanced for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You gonna give us the last ideas?
I just people here to introduce himself here if you want to do that real quick.
Oh yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm Gene.
Jean.
I'm an artist and I'm a designer. A fashioneer at best.
Well, we're gonna have to wrap this conversation up. Also, too, I understand what you, like your I think from what I was saying for your brand for like Art Without Ego, like I understand you have to have ego to be an artist, but also too when you're in the artist community, like it's best to navigate it without ego, if that makes sense.
You got to bring in that sense of like being humble.
Absolutely.
That's the balance.
Yeah, 100%.
Because art is a very intimate thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like thought.
Yes.
And it's very complex.
And essentially, you're bringing out your spirit and your thoughts and putting it and manifesting it for other people to interact with and experience. And that can go very
Sharing
bad
the
sometimes,
You
right?
turn people off. You can turn people off. Your shit can be amazing.
Yeah,
you know, like
you're a horrible person.
It's all about how you feel. It's all about how you feel.
It's all about how you feel. Yeah.
But
It's all about how you feel.
on that note, it is a wrap. Can I get you guys all to get
before we finish though? Like on that note, actually, me and Lucia were talking off camera. You were talking about saying how like how art is like the universe kind of.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, let's go.
Some people call it realization, download, whatever you want to call it. Several years ago, actually, one of the things that came to mind was art is the universe explaining itself to itself.
That's kind of beautiful. Yeah,
That is.
yeah. That's a good way to. Mike end, right? Mike end. Can I get you guys just go one more time? Give me your drops. Tell me who you are, etc., etc.
My name is Elijah at Creative Strength, artist for the babies.
My name is Dante at Art Is My Voice.
My name is Mikey at Alavixi, ALIVIXI. Get at me.
My name is Lucci. I have 2 pages, personal at Sicily, SICILY 5703. And the Art Without Ego page is art.without.ego.
My name is Gene. Instagram is the God Cheesy.
Cheesy.
The God _ Cheesy. DAGAWD. Cheesy like CHESSES. I'm saying SSEY. Something like that.
It's one of them.
Hey, yo, it's X to God. My IG is at XDAGOD at X to God. Right.
Show and Tell Boston After Dark, and that's a wrap.
Cha-cha!